On today's show, we recap the NBA on Christmas Day. Brittany Griner is free, and we'll talk mental health issues in the NBA. You know what time it is. Lace them up and lock in. JWJ. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for starting your day with JWJ. It's your boy Shane, alongside my shooter on the wing via Zoom, my boy James. What's going on, bro?
We back, man. Let's get it
We
cracking.
back. The last pod of December.
Last pod of the year, bro, and let's make sure it's a good one. Let's round them out and get them ready for 20 Trey.
Let's get it. So we're recording this December 26th. And so we're going to talk about the NBA on Christmas Day. We have 5 games. So we're just going to go through it and talk about, make our observations. So you ready, bro?
Mr. Thomas, I stay ready. That's why I'm the shooter on the wing. Let's get it cracking. Let's jump into game 1. What's up?
Yeah, so let's get started, man. The first game of the day, we had the Philadelphia 76ers handle the New York Knicks 119-112. It was the 8th straight win for Philly, 3rd straight loss for New York after they had an 8-game win streak. Joel Embiid, 35 points, 8 rebounds. James Harden with a double-double, 29 points, 13 assists. On the Knicks side, we got Julius Randle with 35 points and 8 rebounds. Mitchell Robinson with 10 points, 16 boards. Jalen Brunson with 23 points and 11 assists, but he left the game late with a hip injury. So, James, Sixers with 8 straight wins, man, beating New York on Christmas Day. What do you think?
All right, so I'm going to tell you like this. And this is no knock on the Knicks, even though I feel like when I say it, it's probably going to be. I want to look more from the Philly side of things. And opponent aside, it can't be ignored that if you watched the game and paid attention, the 76ers did not hold a lead in this game until the 4th quarter.
Right.
I think that has to be paid attention to. I don't know any team that's going to be vying for a title in the long run that's going to be looking at a situation like that. And let's be real, James Harden balled out. Joel Embiid came to play. Jalen Brunson went down. And the team that we all expected to win the game wasn't even on the right side of the scoreboard until the 4th quarter. That, to me, is a little, win streak aside, that's a little troublesome moving forward when you're going to have to deal with teams like Boston and Milwaukee down the road.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, given everything that Philly's been through this year, I mean, they don't have Tyrese Maxey right now. Like, Harden has been, trying to, come back from, some injury troubles he's had in recent years. There's talk now of him possibly wanting to go back to Houston, which
I was just about to say also dealing with the trouble of him wanting to go back to the preferred strippers, but keep going.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just, I don't know. There's a lot still swirling there in Philly, but, let's not lose sight of the fact. I mean, 8 wins in a row. I mean, that given where Philly wants to get to, and, a lot of people had them, as finals contenders last year. So for them, 8 straight wins right now, given all the adversity they've gone through. I mean, James Harden had a 2020 game the other day. If Harden's going to be balling out the way he has and Embiid is Embiid, they're showing right now that they're still viable. Now, if they are able to get Maxey back in the fold later, we'll see just how good Philly can be. But right now, 8 straight wins, playing pretty well around Christmas. But, we all know it means, after the All-Star break, if they're still playing at this level, that then we'll really see what kind of team we're looking at.
Yeah, and that's what I was just about to get at. I was gonna say, I mean, The win streak is nice, but there's teams that have had longer win streaks this season that we're not even talking about as contenders. One of them, case in point, is New Orleans. I think New Orleans' longest win streak this season so far has been 9 games, and nobody's talking about them being in the title picture. So it's, to me, it's like a win streak is nice. But again, I say, we talk about the fact that James Harden balled out the other day. We talk about the fact that Joel has been here, but like you said, no Tyrese Maxey. I feel like we've made at least 3, 4, maybe 5 episodes since the season started, and not once have we mentioned the name Matisse Thybulle. We haven't mentioned Tobias Harris. There's been a lot of names that have been quiet, and if there's a lack of depth in Philly, it's gonna be a problem. I think that's what would end up being their downfall, in my opinion. James Harden shows up, yeah, we're good, but James Harden showed up in Houston. James Harden has showed up a lot of other places. Well, I won't say a lot of other places. The only time he showed up was to say that he wanted out in every other place, which again goes back to my skepticism of Philly. Like, if one of your star players can't even commit to your team, and we just hit Christmas Day and there's already rumors that he might leave you, I don't see Philly going anywhere. And that to me is just more of a reflection of the makeup of the roster, and it starts at the top. It's not Joel Embiid, because to me, Joel Embiid is the one guy on the roster that goes out of his way to give 100%, even when he's not. So shout out to him for what he's doing. And I know those other guys, like I said, especially a Tyrese Maxey. I know Tyrese wants to be out there. I know he wants to be on the court doing what he came to do. Outside of him, it's like, what are we really looking at with Philly? It's like, when they succeed, we talk about James Harden. We talk about Joel Embiid. When the failures are there, we talk about James Harden. We talk about Joel Embiid. But like I was just saying to start off this whole little mini rant, we don't talk about anybody else because it seems like it's such an incomplete team right now.
Yeah, they just have, right now it's like you're not really sure like what to make of them yet. I mean, he comes out, I mean, what 29 in the game yesterday? So yeah, Harden, it's regular season's nothing for him. I think it's what's he gonna bring when the postseason gets here. And Embiid has been there. He has his own health issues, but when he's on the floor, he's productive. It's not about him as much as, okay, who's around him that's going to help him get there. So that's a storyline to watch for the rest of it. On New York's side, third straight loss. I mean, they had been kind of under the radar, had been playing well. Had won 8 straight, and they were just kind of going about their business. Julius Randle played really well, 35-8. Jalen Brunson has been, I think he's an all-star this year. I didn't expect him to be anything different. I mean, 23 and 11 this game. He did leave late with a hip injury. They play Tuesday at Dallas. That'd be his return back to Dallas. So it'll be interesting to see if he's able to make that. They have a 3-game trip there that starts in Texas. So moving right along, speaking of Dallas, Mavs come out, they get a 124-115 win over LA. Lakers were up 14 early, led 54-43 at the half.
Unnecessary.
And then Dallas comes out of halftime and they go nuts. They outscored LA 51-21 in the third. The 51 points ties a franchise record for most points in a quarter. They come out, and I mean, they went from down 11 to up 19 after 3. They led 94-75 after 3 and put together one of the most impressive third quarters I think I've seen in all my years watching ball. I mean, they shoot 18 of 25 from the field, 9 of 13 from 3 in the third. And it was ball movement. A lot of times, don't let the casuals influence people on Dallas. Luka's hogging the ball and Luka's this and that. They had 13 assists on 18 field goals with one turnover in the third quarter. And Tim Hardaway Jr. was killing it. He had 16 of his 24 or 26 points in the third, 6 of 7 from the floor, 4 of 5 from three. On LA's side, LeBron had 38 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. Russell Westbrook was 17. Austin Reeves was 16. And Dallas didn't have Dorian Finney-Smith, didn't have Maxi Kleber, and LA also didn't have Anthony Davis. So James, I know you being a Laker fan, go ahead, man, speak on it.
How do I want to start off this little mini rant here? So do I want to start off by being salty and saying that this is one of the most painful segments that I'm going to have to record right now? The only time this would have felt worse is if we recorded this after game 4 of the second round of the 2011 playoffs. Y'all know what I'm talking about if you know hoops. And I will take a quick segue before I snap on what I saw yesterday or didn't see yesterday. I'm gonna actually give y'all some credit, and by y'all, screw the fans. Shout out to Mark Cuban. That Dirk statue is one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen. The way that they perfected the fadeaway, that statue is one of the most amazing hoop statues I've ever seen in my life. I will go as far as to say that. And then I'm sure you know, Shane, but I'm gonna let the fans know. The phrase inscribed on the trophy. I'm sorry, on the statue. Loyalty never fades away. And I'm sure you know, Shane, I'm gonna let you jump in real quick, the significance of that phrase being at the base of the statue.
Yeah, man. Dirk sat there. 21 letters.
Count it out. Absolutely.
For the 21 seasons that the big German ran it in Big D.
Amazing.
And I mean, it's amazing. The detail in this statue. I mean,
down to the hyper dunks, bro. The hyper dunks, bro.
Yeah, had the 2010 hyper dunks. One of the top hoop shoes ever. And
one of my favorite hoop shoes I've ever played in.
Yeah, they really did a great job with it. I'm glad that they got rid of the other 2 basketballs because
we're not gonna get into that. Keep it PG.
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about the beads that
no.
It resembled. I'm glad Mark Cuban, maybe he did that to rib Dirk. I don't know. Hopefully it was a rib, but no, I'm with you. It's the whole thing. The whole thing is cool, man. Dirk getting the statue. I was listening to Locked On Mavs. Shout out to Nick and Isaac over there on Locked On Mavs. But Nick brought up a cool thing with that. He was just like, like all the detail they put into it. It's one of the last times, like, obviously Dirk's going in the Hall of Fame. He had a great career in Dallas. He's been retired for 3 years now.
Right.
And so, with Dirk, his legacy, the more things we can put out there that the league can do for Dirk, his final game, his retirement announcement, him getting his jersey retired last year, like all these things are big, but to get a statue out front, there's not many people that have statues out front. So when people can pass here, generations from now, and they can see 41 in white in the one-legged fade pose, that's huge, man.
Yeah, I totally agree, bro. And I mean, like I said, look, team allegiance aside, we say it to each other all the time. At the end of the day, we're both fans of the game. And that is a statue that was a long time coming. And I've never been able to say I'm a Dallas fan in my life, but I've always respected Dirk's game. And that trophy, why do I keep calling it a trophy? Hell, in a lot of ways, it is a trophy because it is a serious reward for the work that he put in. So we can still call it a trophy, statue, whatever you want to. But that statue, that statue is, like I said, one of the greatest I have ever seen. There's only one that I think that's going to be better. And, we won't touch on that right now because it's not necessary. But if you know me, you know what I'm getting at. I want to get back to this game. Well, before I get back to the game, I want to touch on one thing real quick. And I want to commend you, Shane, as a Dallas fan, while I commend myself, because it's going to be a super amazing feeling. I'm fully convinced that you will get to see one of your favorites go into the Hall of Fame in the same year that one of my favorites is going to go. And they're both big men. I would love nothing more, and they're both international guys. I would love nothing more, now that they've both been officially named as potential finalists, to see Dirk go into the Hall of Fame alongside my dude Pau Gasol. Would make my heart so happy, especially with them both being international guys. I think that would be something so tremendous, so beautiful for the game that started in America and it has spread all over the world.
Two of the greatest European bigs of all time. You have the greatest in Dirk. You have one of the most successful and skilled players in Pau Gasol. Obviously Pau won more titles. Dirk was able to get one in 2011, but Dirk's career speaks for itself. Pau, I feel like, kind of was in that shadow a little bit, but he was able to win titles in LA and solidify his legacy. Obviously, his international resume speaks for itself as well. So,
absolutely.
Yesterday's game, it was big to see not only Dirk get the statue, but the Mavs don't blow it. Obviously, they came out really flat, played terrible. I think they were 5 for 22 at one point in that game from three. I think 20 of the Mavs' first 30 shots were threes. So it was a live by the three, die by the three kind of game. But Dallas caught fire in that third quarter.
So I have to point this out because, we definitely talked about it over text yesterday. So we were on the phone, what was that, like late Saturday night going into Sunday after midnight or whatever. And before we got off the phone, I made it a point to say, I was like, Shane, I love you, bro, but it's pretty much screw you until the end of Christmas Day. Merry Christmas, and I don't want to talk to you anymore. And you were like, but why? And I was like, let me tell you why. I was like, so our teams are playing each other tomorrow / today at the time. And I was like, I'm telling you now, I'm gonna be mad. And you were like, why are you gonna be mad? And I was like, let me be straight up. And I told you the same thing that I ended up telling my wife a few hours later when the game actually came on. So I'm gonna fast forward and I'm gonna just tell the world what I told her. So my wife is a hoop fan too, and she's also a Laker fan. She splits her loyalty between the Lakers and Toronto. I give her respect. I give her credit on that because she was born in Toronto. My wife is Canadian. So shout out to the Raptors. I respect y'all too. So we're sitting here watching the Lakers and Mavs. And at the end of the first quarter, my Lakers are up by 14. So wifey's sitting there and she's like, oh man, she's like, the Lakers are on a roll. We got this. And I said the same thing to her, Shane, that I said to you the night before. I was like, nope, I'm not convinced. She was like, what? But we're up. We got this. And da-da-da-da. I was like, nah, let me tell you something. I was like, the last few years have taught me the Lakers are not a second half team. I was like, I do not get excited for LA until I see that we are winning after 3. And this is what we talked about, Shane. I don't think I've ever seen a game, barring Christmas, which ticks me off even more. I don't think I've ever seen an NBA game where a team wins 3 quarters of the game and then loses the game. Somehow that was my Christmas present yesterday. So, but before we left, because we went to go spend time with some family yesterday, I was like, I told my wife, I said, look, we're up 14 right now. I was like, I'm telling you now, we don't know how to hold a lead. I was like, I'm calling it. We're going to lose by 6. Shane, what was the final score again?
Final score was 124-115, 9-point win for Dallas.
Lost by 9. I was off by 3 points. At the end of the first quarter, I said we would lose by 6, and it turns out I was off by 3 points. To all of y'all Laker fans out there that want to try to come and trash me, does that make me a hater? Does that make me a fake fan? No. To me, I think that makes me a genuine, a real fan because I understand deficiencies. Shane, let me pose a question to you. The Lakers have played 33 games, counting the game yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you name me the Lakers that have played in every game so far this season?
No.
You know why? Because there are none.
Right.
Now, my next tricky question for you. Can you tell me without Google? I got to challenge you. Can you tell me the Laker on our roster that has played in the most games out of those 33 so far?
Russell Westbrook?
You're close. Russ has played in 30. There's one player on the team, and I'm going to go ahead and break it down a little bit for you. So Russ has played in 30. Lonnie Walker has played in 30. Here's another one for you, Shane. Troy Brown Jr. has played in 30. Everybody else has played in fewer than 30, except for one guy who has played in 31. There's one guy on the roster that has only missed 2 games. Who is it, Shane? We already
Pat
know.
Bev.
So I'm looking at the roster right now. Pat Bev has played in 26 of the 33 games. Now, shout out to Pat Bev because in those 26 games he's played, he has started every one of them. Shout out to him. He's one of only 4 players on the team that have started every game they've played. He started every game. LeBron has started every game they've played. Anthony Davis and Lonnie Walker. They are the only 4 guys on the roster right now that have started every single game that they have played throughout the season. But there's still one guy on the roster that has played more games than everybody I just mentioned.
I'm gonna say Thomas Bryant.
You know what? That's a very good guess. But Shane, you ready for this? Thomas Bryant has only played 19 games. I'm going to go ahead and let you know, just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and give you the ultimate hint. You know the guy that's played in the most games so far this season, Shane?
Oh.
He's the one in the last episode, or was it the episode before, where I was getting very annoyed about the nickname that the world had given him.
Oh, so it's Austin Reeves. All right.
Austin Reeves has played in 31 of a possible 33 games.
Okay.
Yes. Right now on a team with LeBron, AD, Russell Westbrook, Dennis Schroeder, Patrick Beverly, Kendrick None. Yeah, I'm not going to even pronounce the name. We decided to get rid of sharpshooter Matt Ryan. Austin Reeves, so far this season, has played in more games than anybody else on the roster.
And even he's missed a couple, right?
Yeah, he's played in 31 out of a possible 33.
Yeah. So, like, just this game, man. It like I said, Dallas comes out, plays poorly to start. They go down. I think LA went up 23-9 at one point in the first quarter,
and
it looked like Dallas was about to lay an egg on Christmas because it's the first time they played Christmas. I mean, last year they played Christmas, but we don't get a ton of them. So to see Dallas actually get to host the game and they don't have to go to LA, which was kind of funny going into the year.
I think for what it's worth, y'all are going to get a lot more off the strength of Luka alone, because Luka, I mean, to his credit, even if Dallas doesn't do a solid job of putting the right stuff around him, Luka alone is December 25th entertainment.
Yeah, and
y'all are going to be playing on Christmas for a while.
I went this long without really even talking about Luka's numbers and the guys that did play well for them. I mean, Luka was Luka. He started slow, but eventually he turned it on. I think he had 13 points in that third quarter. He ends up with 32 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. He actually did get help. We mentioned Tim Hardaway Jr. earlier, but Christian Wood, the last year's draft day trade. He comes out and he's been playing really well of late. He had 30 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals, and 2 blocks. Um, for a lot of people that follow the Mavs, that's huge because
Mm-hmm.
not only is he's playing a complete game. A lot of people thought Christian Wood was kind of a black hole. He was just out there for his points, but he gave you some rebounds, he gave you some assists, 7 of them. I think that tied a career high, 4 steals and 2 blocks. He played both ends of the court. Um, you know, can't say enough about how he's played here of late, and they need it.
Mm-hmm.
Mark Cuban, if you happen to be listening to this, Christian Wood is eligible for that 4-year, $77 million extension.
Mark Cuban, I hope you're
Um,
listening. Please, please.
yeah, and he was eligible for that on Christmas Day, and he goes out and stuffs the stat sheet. So Christian Wood, Dallas doesn't need to make the same mistake that they made with Jalen Brunson. If you can offer this dude an extension, he has great chemistry with Luka, and you want to surround Luka with guys that can play with him and help him out. So Christian Wood is playing like he deserves that extension. It was a big win for the Mavs on Christmas to
Definitely.
have a 30 point margin in the third quarter, lose every other quarter, like James pointed out earlier. They lost every quarter in this game except the third, but
And
they
it
won
took
that
something
third by 30
extreme.
points.
Right. It took
So
something extreme. So I mean, that, like I said, it's not even to discredit Dallas's win, because y'all definitely earned that. You deserved it. But like I said, it took something of a hoop anomaly. Like I said,
yeah,
it's not, like you said, it's not very often that you lose 3 of the 4 quarters in a regulation game that doesn't see extra minutes, and you win it off the strength of 1 quarter. You don't see that too often.
yeah. Teams don't really go crazy from 3 the way Dallas went crazy from 3. Like I said, at one point
Right.
they were 5 of 22 from 3 in this game, and they go 9 of 13 in the third alone. They shot 18 of 25 in that third quarter. It was a hell of a display of shooting by Dallas, and they did it with ball movement. I mean, they moved the ball around, and a lot of guys touched it. I think one possession, I think they made 10 passes. They were talking about that on Twitter yesterday. So going from that, we're going to go from Luka to Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum goes for 41 as the Celtics blow out Milwaukee 139 to 118. Obviously, Milwaukee playing without Chris Middleton, who's working his way back from injury. But the
Mm-hmm.
Celtics shoot the lights out. They shoot 59% from the floor, go 19 of 39 from 3. And like I said, Tatum goes for 41. Jaylen Brown goes for 29. Just talk about that game, James, man. I was a little bit surprised. I know you said, before we came on that you weren't. So just
Mm-hmm.
talk about your thoughts on the Celtics winning by 21 on Christmas.
I think that I think a big part of what happened in that game, and I'll rehash exactly what I said to you before we got on. If anything, I think that this really it shows us 2 things. One, it shows us just how valuable of a piece Chris Middleton is to Milwaukee. And what I mean by that is, we look at Chris Middleton for scoring here and there. He is one of the, one of the most solid, most reliable scorers for the Bucks. But I think what gets lost in translation very often with him is just how good of a defender he is.
Right.
And I think that was really what showed through yesterday, is he wasn't there. And if we look at it, Chris Middleton plays that wing area of the floor. So a majority of his assignment in yesterday's game would have been Jaylen Brown and a certain guy that happened to go for 41. Not to say that Jason Tatum wouldn't have still been amazing, but I guarantee if Chris Middleton was there, he wouldn't have finished with 41. So that to me is the first point. But I'm going to do something again that I rarely do, and I'm glad it's being recorded because I'm not afraid to admit when these things happen. People better understand that Boston is for real. They'd better understand that Boston is not messing around, because Jason Tatum comes in here and goes off for 41 on Christmas Day. And I don't know if you saw it, but he came out with he came out with a very Kobe-esque quote after the game. They asked him, how did you feel coming in? How did you feel during the game and this and that or whatever? And I'm paraphrasing, but he came out and pretty much said, he's like, when I step onto the court, the only person I'm competing with is myself. He said, I want to be the best version of myself. I'm competing against me. And he's like, when I get into the mode that I want to be in, I don't think there's anybody that can beat me. That is me personally, Shane, you can agree, disagree, whatever. That is the closest thing to a quote unquote Kobe quote that I think I have heard since the Mamba retired. And I absolutely love it. I hate the fact that it came from somebody wearing green, even though they were wearing those jerseys that I love. But that people better watch out for Jason Tatum, that he comes into games with that kind of mindset.
That's what we wanted to see. That's what we've wanted to see from Jason Tatum. We talked about that last year. It's like he was having a crisis of confidence last year.
That was the killer in the finals. That was the killer in the finals.
He was disappearing in games, not shooting well, like second guessing himself, just not really playing free and not really playing like a guy that is worthy of that stage. So for him to come out Christmas Day and play the way he played and say the things that he said, you're starting to see, okay, he's taking his performance in the finals to heart. And he's saying, okay, look, like, I know I wasn't at my best. I can't let that happen again. And that's what you want to see from a young player like that.
No, he came out and he showed up. And like I said, I mean, it hurts my heart to say it about a Celtic, but like we're looking at one of the premier players in the league right now. Not that wasn't already obvious, but he's making it a point to let people know, like, do not count me out. Like I'm here. And I think the best thing about it right now is the fact that not only is he standing out, but it's reflecting on his team. I mean, pretty often, way too often, I feel like we'll see individual stars that might ball out, but it doesn't turn around into wins. It doesn't reflect in team success. I'm pleased to say, just as a basketball fan, I'm very happy to see that not only do we have a player like Jason Tatum being successful, but it's turning into team success, because at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Right. And they come out, man, and they play Milwaukee. I mean, granted, Milwaukee didn't have Chris Middleton, but they pretty much were injury-free everywhere else. Giannis didn't play great. Shot 9 of 22, but finished with 27. Drew Holiday was great. They shot 50% and lost by 21. So that's pretty impressive. That's a feather in the cap win for Boston, just because you want to see how you come out and how you measure up with a team that's expected to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals, a team that has won titles. And Boston, I think their mission is to prove, like, we not only did we get hot at the right time at the end of last year, but we want to prove that we got to the finals because we're good enough and not because it was some fluke. By beating Milwaukee the way they beat Milwaukee, that's impressive. I think we can look back at this game in particular later in the year as one of those kind of statement wins for Boston, because 41 for Tatum, you got to put him, I think he's right up there in the top couple guys maybe as far as MVP right now.
No. He's absolutely up there. I do have to make sure that I make a point once we talk about, I'm pretty sure it's the next game on the agenda. No, there's something else that I do want to mention that still, like you said, he's in the top. As long as you didn't say he's the top, then we get that's where we can, get into that whole thing. I know we talked about the idea of voter fatigue and everything, but no, he absolutely deserves to be in the conversation. I mean, Laker bias and team quote unquote hatred aside, he absolutely deserves to be in the conversation because he's having one of the best seasons of his career. And again, like I said, the most important thing is not only are you having one of your best seasons, but it is reflected in the success of your team. And at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Right. And, moving forward now, I mean, you go from the team that represented the East in the NBA Finals last year to the team that represented the West. We got Golden State against Memphis. Golden State comes out, beats Memphis 123-109. Jordan Poole with 32 points. Klay Thompson with 24 points, including one of the most hilarious trash talk moments at the end of the game.
Oh my
after
God.
he hits a bucket, a rare double-double for Draymond Green, 13 rebounds, 13 assists in the win.
Love it.
Excellent win for Golden State, who, I'll be honest,
minus
without Steph, I thought that game would be tighter. But they still came out and handled business. A big reason for that, Dante DiVincenzo started, had 5 threes, had 19 points. The bench for Golden State was phenomenal. They had 42 bench points. Ty Jerome, Moses Moody, Anthony Lamb combined for 35 with 6 threes as Golden State wins. Memphis, they struggled a little bit. They shot under 45%, around 41.5 actually. They missed 30 of their 39 3-point attempts. And even though Ja Morant had 36, 8, and 7, they go home with the L after talking a big game there in the offseason. So,
all right, so check this out. Now, and I wanna go right back and mention what I said to you before we jumped on here, Shane. When we talked about the fact that Memphis got blown out, what was it that I said to you about that whole thing?
Well, I remember you saying that, Golden State has been in that situation before. Memphis hasn't really been in that situation before.
Right. So back to the basis of what I had told you, I said the fact that Memphis lost, I was not surprised. I wasn't surprised at all. And there were a number of things that factored into that. Number one, like I said, you have a championship team with a championship resume like Golden State. They've been in situations where they've been without key guys. Like they've had very crucial games where they've been missing Draymond. They've had crucial games where they've been missing Steph. They've had, crucial games where they've been missing Kevin Durant, where they've been missing. I mean, they went for almost 2 years without Klay Thompson. Were they successful that whole time? No, they weren't. But they were already at the top of the mountain and had time to figure out, if this key guy isn't here, what are we going to do? Memphis, on the other hand, they've made their way up. They haven't been to the top of the mountain yet. And if you look at it, they're one of the youngest teams in the league. So to me, I look at it just like if me and you go to the gym right now. I mean, everybody knows our age if you've been paying attention, so I'm not going to repeat it, but let's just say we ain't spring pups. We ain't spring pups exactly. We go to the gym. People walk in and take a look at us. First thing they're going to say is, "Oh man, we got this." Why? Because we're younger. Yeah, like those are old dudes. Like they're immediately going to assume that's Memphis. That's Memphis. And that's why I love Memphis. I've said it on this podcast and I'm going to say it again right now. One of my absolute favorite players in the NBA right now is Ja Morant. For that reason, he gives me and correct me, like, let me know how you feel on this. He gives me extreme Allen Iverson vibes. Like, he's a smaller guy. Sometimes he runs the point. Sometimes they play him off on the 2. No matter where he is, the dude is heartless. He comes in. He's like, my goal is to take your soul. The only difference between him and Allen Iverson ain't never had that kind of bounce, bro. Allen
Mm-mm.
Iverson, John Morant comes onto the court, and that dude looks like he's at halftime jumping off trampolines.
Yeah.
Like it like that to me is the key difference between the two. But the swag, the confidence, they're 1-1.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I love about it. And that's where you see the kind of leader that he is too, because the whole team feels that way. But another thing, like I said, I wanted to go back to the whole idea of one team is used to this, one team isn't. We look at where Memphis is sitting right now. And this is, again, credit to a guy like Taylor Jenkins. He knows how to work with this team right now. He hasn't had to deal with them on a scale of like dealing with it in NBA finals, but he knows how to deal with them during the regular season when these injuries occur. And to that, I say, on Christmas Day, Ja Morant, Desmond Bane, who, when he's healthy, is one of the deadliest three-point shooters in the league.
Right.
And Jaren Jackson, who, when healthy, is one of the most dangerous paint defenders in the league. Those three guys, the core of the Memphis Grizzlies, off the top of your head, do you know how many games they've played together so far this season?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Christmas Day against Golden State was only the second time that those three guys were on the floor together for Memphis. And their first time together was literally the game before on December 23rd when they beat Phoenix. Those are the only two games so far that they've had a chance to actually be on the floor together this season. So it's things like that where I'm like, I'm not surprised Golden State beat them, because Golden State has that experience factor. They're able to come in and it's much easier for them. And I'm saying all this to say it's a credit to the guys on that Golden State roster. And it's an absolute credit to a coach like Steve Kerr. You know how to cater. When you're missing this, you know what to do. When this is here, I know how to plug it in. Like you said, you talked about the bench scoring. Plenty of guys have deep benches. Plenty of teams have deep benches. But it doesn't work like that if they're not used to being plugged in at the right time. And that's where Steve Kerr's intelligence comes in. So when that whole thing first came up and we knew that Steph Curry was injured, we talked about it a few days prior and we were both like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. In my mind, I'm like, I still think Golden State, I didn't think they were going to blow it out. Like we're on the same page with that. I didn't think that Golden State was going to absolutely run away with it. And to be fair, at one point, I think it was in the third quarter, Memphis did get it to within 3. At one point in the third quarter, Golden State was only up 80-77.
Yeah.
But that's where that coaching and that's where that depth pulled them away, because Memphis doesn't have that.
Yeah.
Taylor Jenkins, you're a hell of a coach, bro, but you ain't no Steve Kerr. And to Memphis's bench, you guys aren't as developed and you're not as ready to jump into the fire as these guys like a James Wiseman, who have already been thrown back to the G League and been forced to develop and have to do all of these other things.
And he had great moments defensively as well.
Absolutely.
He played really well defensively for them. And I think that's something that they've wanted to see from him all season.
That was tremendous. That was big. And like I said, that's what made the difference. And I think that to me is the beauty of basketball. Is everybody thinks you just go out there, you just dribble a ball, you put the ball in the basket, and that's it. It sounds easy. Get out there and do it.
Yeah.
You have to be able to put pieces into place to make sure that certain things happen. And I don't think there's too many coaches in the league right now. Granted, you have some, pretty strong chess pieces around you, but I don't think there's too many coaches in the league right now that are better at planning for disaster than Steve Kerr. And
No
That
Andrew Wiggins either.
and
That's
no
another
Andrew
point.
and no Andrew Wiggins. No Andrew Wiggins. And I mean, I feel like it's worth mentioning, even though it wouldn't have mattered. Have we even seen Andre Iguodala this season?
He's
He's a consultant. He's a
I'm
consultant.
willing to put him in that category of he's kind of Golden State's human victory cigar now.
I'll take it.
You know,
So
like
it's yeah.
no knock on Iggy,
No, he's
but
done his time, and
he's done his job. You know, he's back in some capacity. I think his impact though, like we talked about back in the summer, his impact is on those young guys and coaching those guys
with
up.
all due respect, Andre Iguodala, and he's gonna go down as one of the greatest six men in NBA history. And
Right.
I think he will easily make that list, which Shane, I'm gonna challenge us right now on record. We got to put together that list. Greatest six men in NBA history. We
Okay.
gonna make that happen. But no, yeah, that game to me was honestly, I won't say my favorite game of the night, but my favorite game is coming up. I'm gonna let you kind of give some final thoughts on this one, and then I'll let you channel us over into the final game, the final games of the night.
Yeah, for sure. So like, you know, with that game, man, I think for Golden State, it was an opportunity to kind of flex their muscle a little bit. They definitely handled Memphis. Memphis was talking some trash. Obviously, Ja Morant's, you know, we're gonna pull up on y'all on Christmas Day, like, you know, basically saying we're gonna see about it. Ja held up his end of the bargain, but the team just didn't play well around him. Like I said, 9 of 39 from three, shot under 42% from the floor. That's not going to win you too many games, especially when you're on the road. Um, you know, Memphis is a team that's up and coming, but they're not quite there yet. They kind of give me some OKC vibes from years and years ago, as far as a team that has some good young talent that's, you know, on their way up, but, you know, experience is going to trump youth in a lot of those situations. So I think with that being said, you know, Golden State kind of proved that, yeah, we're still here. Klay Thompson hits a jumper over, I think it was Dylan Brooks toward the end, and kind of taunts him on the way down the court, which I thought was hilarious. Draymond Green, he was also taunting some guys at the end because, you know, the trash talk is real. I love that aspect of it. I love the fact that they both got after it and guys were jawing at each other, especially when this was something that started, you know, last year. And I love the fact that it's carried over now and it's just good. It's good old fashioned competition. So, you know, Golden State, you know, pulled it out and did what they had to do. Love that they showed the youngsters that, you know, they still had it. And with that being said, if you guys have made it this far, I just want to let you know, be sure to follow the JWJ podcast, like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that notification bell to be notified whenever we produce and put out new episodes.
We're everywhere.
If you go to our Instagram, if you go to our Twitter, which may not be there too much longer if Elon Musk and all this stuff keeps going. But if you do go to Linktree, you can find us pretty much wherever you get your podcast. So again,
Absolutely.
thank you for making JWJ a part of your day. We appreciate it and glad you guys are listening to us. Now, we got one more game we want to get to, and then we want to get to the meat of our podcast. Denver Nuggets go out and they win 128-125 in overtime over Phoenix. Nikola Jokic, humongous game, 41 points, 15 rebounds, 15 assists. He only had 3 turnovers as well.
Man,
Aaron
come
Gordon had a
on.
double-double, 28 points, 13 rebounds. Jamal Murray still working his way back, had 26 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Nuggets win their 4th straight game. On Phoenix's side, that's their 3rd straight loss. They were without Devin Booker for much of this game. Only played for maybe 4 minutes in the game, but
Yeah,
Landry
4 minutes.
Shamet comes out and does what he does, makes shots. He comes out, gets 31 points, hits 7 threes, 6 assists off the bench. Uh, hopefully he's recovering nicely from almost having his life ended last night. Chris Paul had 17 points, 16 assists, doing his point guard thing. No turnovers.
Yeah, man.
DeAndre Ayton comes out 22 and 16, and Damian Lee with 18 and 8 off the bench. So James, probably the game of the night, Nuggets and Suns, man. What were your thoughts on that one?
I'm gonna look at this a little bit like I looked at the Milwaukee and Boston game, only because these are again two of the heavy hitters in their conference. So the first thing I want to say is I feel it's necessary to shout out, the Joker. And earlier I talked about, the fact that Jason Tatum is in the conversation, but he's not the conversation for MVP. We talked about the whole idea of voter fatigue before, but to me, it's like that is just so offensive when you have a guy that is just balling the hell out. And by balling the hell out, I mean you have a guy that posts the first and so far only 40-point triple-double on Christmas in NBA history. I know the league can come up with some really specific, statistics and everything, but come on now. It's so we're going to celebrate Jason Tatum for what he did. And to me, it's like the fatigue is BS if we're going to ignore the fact that another guy later in the night did something that has literally never been done before. So that to me, that's my first issue from this game. I kind of want to counter that and then also look Denver in the face a little bit and be like, it took overtime and you only won by 3. And another guy that's been in MVP conversation over the last few years only played 4 minutes. But like I said, the unfortunate thing there is we have to look at the rest of the roster. It's like we see what Jokic did. Aaron Gordon, my God. Aaron freaking Gordon, man.
Is that the dunk of the year?
Without question. Without question. Right now, for me, the only thing that would have topped it would have been if Ja Morant had connected earlier in the day. Yeah. That would have been the only thing. No, to me, Aaron Gordon's dunk on Christmas Day, hands down dunk of the year so far.
I'm just glad he didn't get robbed because they originally called that offensive foul.
Yeah, they called the charge.
I'm glad they overturned it because that was one of the worst charge calls I've ever seen. It's like that dude was cha-cha sliding.
So you know what that means is that on one of our future episodes, we're gonna have to go into our own little individual rants about how coaches suck. But that we'll save that. But
how's he seriously? How's that offensive foul? They were trying to say, okay, he literally comes up underneath. He sold it.
It's because he's
literally leaning to the left as he's getting hit. Like it's literally cha-cha slide to the left. Slide to the right.
Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't say 2-time.
Oh, terrible! Like I'm glad they overturned it because we've seen a lot of people get robbed on those kind of plays. So I'm glad they actually did review it and overturn it.
The thing is they sell the drama, like because just like and you brought this up earlier. We've talked about it before. Had Aaron Gordon, if that sequence played out the exact same way, and Aaron Gordon goes up and does that and he misses, he'd have been at the line shooting too.
Right.
Because they're so catering to dunks and it's to the point to where it's robbing the game. It's taking away from the excitement of the game, and that's a big issue. So I'm so glad. I agree with you. I'm so glad that they went back, reviewed, they overturned it. It was a clean dunk. Like you said, defender was moving. Defender was out there getting his family reunion on. So Aaron Gordon deserved it. In my opinion, that is the dunk of the year. so
Yeah,
far.
he was having his own like personal dunk contest in that game. He had a few.
Yeah,
He had a bunch of
he
dunks in
still
that game.
no
Where he was reversed, one handed, whatever it was.
he
He
was
was up
still
and throwing down.
he was still upset about the contest that he lost and he shouldn't have.
Right, right. That's a whole. We could have a whole pod just
We're
on
gonna
that.
we can do an episode just off a dunk contest, bro. Look, book it. We're gonna do it. 2023, y'all. Stay tuned. It's gonna happen. Aaron Gordon, one of the greatest robbed dunk contest contestants in NBA history.
Right. And at that point, it's like, look, if you pull off what he pulled off in that contest and you don't win, I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't go back and compete in it either.
And I would make
That's
it
trash.
known. I would make it known.
Oh yeah, they'd never see me again. It's like the dunk contest already is kind of has lost its luster over the years. But that was one of the best dunk contests we had ever had. And then you robbed the guy that was the winner. Come on.
Look. So here we go. We can do a whole pod about this later, but I gotta throw these 3 names out there right now that need to be in the contest this year.
Mm-hmm.
Health willing, we got to get Aaron Gordon back.
Doubtful.
No, I'm saying no. We gonna get him back in. Based off the contestants, it would be one of the best that I think we've ever seen. We gonna get Aaron Gordon.
Okay.
We gonna get Ja Morant.
All right.
And we're gonna talk Zion into it.
Yeah.
I don't even feel like we need anybody else.
I'd be cool with that. If you just had those 3, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, I'd be cool.
Those are like the only people I would really even want to see dunk.
That's right. I'd be cool with that.
I don't think there's anybody else I'd want to see really, really dunking. I mean, you could probably throw who's the kid from Portland that's been dunking?
You talking about
Shaden Sharp?
Shaden's the rookie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like,
that's the kid. Throw him in there.
Like that's the only other person I think I would. Well, hold on, wait. Other than him, it's got to be Luka, right? It's got to be Luka.
No, to me, no. I don't know if I would put Luka.
I'm all joking. I'm joking.
I know. Because I was about to go on a whole dissertation type deal here.
Luka probably got drug tested after the hammers he was throwing down last week.
Twice.
So
I told you, man. The joke. Look, if I'm Dallas, just because of how impressive that stuff was, I would have fabricated a letter from the league and put it on Instagram just for popularity's sake. I'd have been like, "Yo, man, look what they did to us."
Yeah, what they should have did is rolled up on him when he showed up in his car and his cowboy get up yesterday.
Bro, that car though.
Luka was showing out, bro.
That car. Oh my goodness. And then he bought the whole team scooters.
He bought the whole team scooters. He had the bolo tie.
Just to be funny, I would have got them the scooters, given them to him before the game, and we would have all rode out pregame. We'd have all rode out on the scooters pregame and rode around the court.
Yeah, somebody should have rolled up on him with the drug test fabrication on one of the scooters.
Yes. You've been served, sir.
Like, Luka. Yeah. So before you go play LA, we need you to pee in this cup real quick.
You've been served, Lukovic.
But yeah, man, like, just, one more point on this game.
Oh man,
obviously these are 2 teams that are trying to, get to the top of the West. Obviously, Phoenix had the best record in the league last year. They've kind of followed that. They kind of followed that same trajectory, even though this was their 3rd straight loss. And they started slow and they've kind of rebounded, but Denver's trying to get, they're trying to make their statement as well. I think both teams are they're kind of in that. It's like you're not quite sure if they're title contenders yet.
And the same
I
thing,
think there's still a lot to prove.
No, and the same thing we've talked about with a lot of other teams from Christmas so far. A big issue with Phoenix is health. Right. Devin Booker's dealing with the groin injury. Chris Paul's missed time. Really, I mean, if you look at the one person that's been consistent, it's the one person that's always consistent, and that's Mikal Bridges. The one guy that has yet to miss a game in his freaking career. Like everybody's had to deal with something on that roster at one point or another. So it's that's where it's gonna fall on, Monty Williams and his staff and the trainers, and making sure that everybody's getting the right treatment, getting the right, service and everything to be able to make that long run. Because as much as we all love and revere a Chris Paul, dude is 37 years old. So is it 37, 36? Either way, NBA lingo, dude is old.
Yeah, I
So
think he's 37. Yeah, 'cause I remember
yeah,
writing a column about him last year.
yeah. So it's you have to pay attention to your arsenal, and you have to pay attention to how to manage it. And I think that's going to be the one thing that could potentially cost Phoenix in the long run, is you have to pay attention to those things. So we'll see what it is moving forward, but they got to make sure that they're careful with what they have.
Yeah, it's touch and go at this point, because I mean, with Chris Paul, it's like you're kind of playing with house money with that one. I mean, it's a little risky because Father Time could strike at any moment, and Chris Paul's not, not Teflon. I mean, he's definitely, come up with injuries in key spots.
Nylon.
He's had all kinds of problems. So it's like, for as great as Chris Paul's been, the kind of epitaph on his career right now is he's good, but he's not win
Can't
you
stay
the big
healthy.
one good.
Yeah.
And, and so far it's like, last year there was 64 win team, and then they get put out in the second round. So it's kind of weird that, this is Chris Paul's best chance here in the twilight of his career to make this happen. But there's so
Right.
many other things that go into this. Obviously, health is big. Devin Booker being out, for much of this game probably could have swayed that outcome. The DeAndre Ayton situation is weird there. It's like him and Monty are still clashing. He thought he wasn't going to be re-signed. He was ready to go to the Pacers, and then Phoenix matches the offer and brings him back. So
They knew what they were
that's a
doing.
situation to watch. I'm sorry. What?
They knew what they were doing, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you're basically your number one draft pick from the Luka draft. He gets 22 and 16. This is a situation where it's like, is he the guy? Is this somebody that you're willing to commit to? Is he the piece y'all think he is, or is this a guy that you're about to trade and shake up your roster? There's a lot of touch and go things there. Is Devin Booker really like that? Like, we know he can score a bunch of points, but are those points actually going to be, contributing to wins? It's easy to do that when you got guys that can drive the bus. Like Chris Paul can get you there. DeAndre's another piece there. Mikal Bridges, Mr. Consistency, he's always there. Cam Johnson's another guy that can really go. So it's like, on one hand, they're young and they're still trying to work their way up. On the other hand, they got some guys that are veteran that are trying to get it done. So it's kind of a touch and go thing. I thought Phoenix would probably take a little step back. They started the season slow, but they're kind of back in that conversation. So we'll see how they go as the season goes. But for Denver, it's a good win for them. Nikola Jokic just continues to kill it. Even though he's a two-time reigning MVP, I think the voter fatigue could possibly kick in for him this year. That's one of those things too, where I think of voter fatigue. I mean, LeBron James could have 7 MVPs if we're sitting here. He could have 7 or 8. As much as he affects the game on both ends, or at least he did, in his prime, whatever. It's like LeBron could have way more than 4 MVPs.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, and so like, I think I think Jokic, the fact that he's so productive and so unique, I think that's one thing that could possibly keep that window for him to win more MVPs. Actually is one of those things that, I think his uniqueness and his skill set kind of lends itself to that, because not only is he a scoring threat, but he rebounds for you, and he's the best passer, one of the best, arguably the best passer in the NBA. So,
right.
for Denver, I think it's a good win for them, just because they're trying to get to the Western Conference Finals, trying to get over the hump. So it's two teams kind of in that same mold of like, do they have enough, and can they finally get over the hump? So that's pretty much, hey, that's the Christmas Day slate. We got overtime in there, a lot of good games. Some
The
surprises.
fact that overtime capped off the final game is dope.
Yeah, like
It's
that's
almost on
huge.
like some WrestleMania type stuff. Like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like it's dope. So, Christmas
was that
Day
a
ends with a bang, and that's
shameless
cool. But you know,
wrestling connection?
yeah, for sure.
Stay tuned. We've only just begun. In part 2 of this episode, we discuss the controversial Brittany Griner prisoner swap and what it means for the Phoenix Mercury.